These podcasts have really helped me in so many different parts of my life. Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about my favorite podcasts. It took me a while to get on the bandwagon for podcasts. I didn't really understand the appeal of podcasts until I actually tried listening to one, and I realized it's basically radio on demand, and I really like them now. And they're cool because you can listen to them while you're doing other things like cooking, washing the dishes, etc. I'm going to list my favorite podcasts, and I'm going to mention some of my favorite episodes from each. So the first one is the Tim Ferriss Show. He's probably one of the best interviewers ever. And he basically studies and interviews really high-performing individuals in their respective fields and tries to gain insights from their different experiences. So it's really cool. His episodes are really long. They're usually about an hour to 2 hours, but you can listen to them in sessions or just listen to parts of them. My favorite episodes from the Tim Ferriss Show are Seth Godin, who is a marketing expert, Susan Cain, who wrote a book called Quiet about introverts in business and in life and how they can take advantage of that part of their personalities, which I'm currently reading and I'm very excited about. And Mira Ko, who was an introvert, really shy as a kid and became a world-class debater, and he kind of asks her about that journey. Cal Fussman, and the episode that I love is the one where Cal Fussman actually interviews Tim Ferriss, and you finally get to learn a little bit more about him. He's a really interesting guy also. And the last one is Liz Lambert, who is a hotelier, and she started a really famous hotel in Texas from randomly deciding to buy a really run-down, drug-ridden motel and ended up starting a really famous neighborhood in a big Texas city. I can't remember exactly which one it was. The next podcast I love is How I Built This with Guy Raz. He's also a really talented interviewer, and he interviews founders of different companies. He interviews founders of a variety of different companies, and some of them are huge billion-dollar companies now. It's really interesting to hear from the founders themselves on their journeys, how they started, when they started, how long it took, their biggest obstacles, you name it, they talk about it. Some of my favorite episodes from that podcast are the Wikipedia episode, Tom's Teach for America, and Lonely Planet. Lonely Planet's really cool, actually started by a couple who traveled all around the world. Also, I believe there's an episode on Airbnb that's pretty interesting, and WeWork. I forgot to write those down. The next podcast is Second Life. Second Life is hosted by Hillary Kerr, and she is a founder of Who, What, Where, I believe. She interviews women who have changed career paths, that's why it's called Second Life. And so she starts from where they started, so what they studied and what they thought they would be when they grew up, and kind of follows through that journey, that path that took them to where they are now. It's really interesting, and it features really powerful and successful women that are huge inspirations. So my favorite episodes from that show are Jen Atkin, who is a famous hairdresser. Aurora James is a fashion designer. Jacqueline Johnson, who founded Create and Cultivate, a platform that connects creators and entrepreneurs. Ali Webb, who started Dry Bar, and Shani Darden, who is a famous esthetician. The last podcast that I love is Wharton Business Radio. It sounds a little bit much, Wharton Business Radio, very intense, and some of the episodes can be, but there are some really good episodes. I don't listen to all of them, they're not all my cup of tea, but it's a good way to stay current on the business world, but also they have some really cool guests, and I have some great episodes to suggest. So the first one is called Work-Life Balance with the CEO of one of the companies that is regularly voted as the best company to work at in America. And I don't remember the name, but this guy's really cool, so I suggest watching the episode. The next one is Scaling Leadership, which is a huge issue when you're growing a company, and I love to learn about that topic. And the last one is Purpose Built, which is actually my favorite, and it's about to become a series. They have 2 episodes so far, but I only listened to the first one. And the first one is with the founders of Allbirds. Allbirds is an amazing clothing company that is very innovative and sustainable and looking to change the world, and I love that. The Purpose Built series is basically going to focus on social enterprise, and that's the kind of company I hope to start one day. So I'm really excited to listen to the second episode that's out, which is also linked below with the first episode. And just excited to see where the series goes. Wharton Business Radio also has a nice little short podcast because it's actually a radio station that they turn into podcasts. So I'll listen to random episodes when I have a little bit of time. And for example, I listened to one about SpaceX and how they had the first private spaceship reach the International Space Station. They have different guests and kind of talk about the implications of that. And although it's definitely not my area of expertise or a passion of mine, it's interesting to learn about different things like that and the implications that they'll have on the world, because business has real life implications, social, cultural, and it's cool to learn about what's going on there. The last podcast that I wanted to mention was The Wisdom Theory with Renee Amberg. She's a YouTuber that I watch. She talks about self-growth, self-development, spirituality, and she's awesome. It's a new podcast. There are only 2 episodes, but I did listen to them. And she kind of, in one of them, for example, talks about why we shouldn't take life so seriously. And one of the reasons is that we are just a minuscule part of a huge universe that one day will not exist. She provides a lot of cool quotes, a lot of good book recommendations. She reads a lot, and she even reads from some books in the podcast. They're also short, which I like. They're not too long. And I'm excited to see where the series goes. So those are my favorite podcasts. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And let me know if you listen to any of these episodes or even the podcast in general. Let me know what you think of them. And of course, give me recommendations if you listen to any podcast, because I love finding new ones. I have all the links below for all the episodes that I listed. And of course, you can find the podcast through those links as well. These podcasts have really helped me in so many different parts of my life. They're a really productive part of my days when I listen to podcasts. And I'm always able to do something else while I listen, which is really awesome as well. Not like a video that kind of captures all your attention and is monopolizing. So that's why I really like podcasts. And they're also really cool for bus rides or traveling, because I kind of get motion sickness in cars when I watch videos. I know not everyone's into business podcasts or self-development podcasts. There are so many different types, but it doesn't hurt to try something new. If you don't end up liking these, I will not be offended. Don't worry. I just want to share the things that make me happy, that inspire me, that I think are worthy of my time. So let me know if you guys enjoy these. Bye.